In this lesson, we're going to be taking a look at features on demand. When the Windows Server setup files are being installed on your server, they're being installed in a directory called the side-by-side store. And this directory is located in the Windows directory in the WINSXS folder. Now, keeping a copy of these feature files available on your disk in this way enables you to add a role or enable a feature after Windows Server installation without actually needing to access your Windows Server media, whether that be a DVD or any other media that you have your server files stored on. Now, in previous versions of Windows Server, these features that were installed during Windows setup remained on the disk for the life of the operating system. Now, there was a disadvantage to this approach. The disadvantage was that these files took up space on the disk. Now, in your organization, you might not need to use all of the roles and the features that actually come with server, the version of server that you're using. But you actually were not able to reduce the size of the installation image. You might want to do that because you might be creating a custom installation for your organization. Now, in Server 2012, you now can minimize the footprint of your installation by deleting the files and features from this folder. Remember that those features go into what? The side-by-side store, which is located in Windows in the WinSXS folder. Now, it is the ability to delete these feature files, which is called features on demand. So the ability to delete these feature files is called features on demand. If later, after you have deleted one of these features or roles, you wanted to reinstall that feature, you would need to access the Windows Server 2012 source disk. Now, let's take a look at how we would go about removing all the files for a role or feature from your disk inside a side-by-side directory. We can use the Windows feature commandlet. And this commandlet is called uninstall Windows feature. It's a PowerShell command. And you see here on screen, the example is uninstall Windows feature DHCP remove. As simple as that. So if I wanted to remove the DHCP feature from my server or any other feature, I would simply, at my PowerShell prompt, type uninstall Windows feature DHCP remove. Now, one of the things that you might be wondering is, well, how do I remember the names of all the features and the roles in Windows? Because there are lots of features and roles. Well, what you can do is, at your PowerShell prompt, you can actually type get Windows feature, the perimeter computer name and the name of your computer, the perimeter for credential, and your credential, which would be your domain, and your username. So let's go through that again. I want to uninstall a Windows feature, but I do not remember the exact name of the feature. I know it's DHCP, but I'm not sure if it's DHCP server or just DHCP. And I need to find out the exact name of the feature. To do that, I use the get Windows feature commandlet. Now, let's see how we do that. This is my Server Manager dashboard. If I click on Tools and click on Active Directory Module for Windows PowerShell, it brings me to the PowerShell screen. All I need to do here is to type the PowerShell command, get Windows feature. Now, when I do that, it actually shows me all the features that are listed in my Windows installation, and they are in alphabetic order. Now you would see here at the command prompt that I have get-Windows feature. Because I am already on the server that I want to delete the feature from, I don't need to type the server name or I don't need to type the credential. If I were accessing another server, then I would actually have to type the server name and the credential for that server. Now here we have DHCP. You can see here DHCP. And over on the left-hand side would be the display name. But the name would be DHCP. There's DNS and there are lots of other features and roles. So that's how you are able to find out the exact name of the feature by running the PowerShell command, get Windows feature. If I wanted to remove that feature, I would simply type at my PowerShell command prompt, uninstall Windows feature, DHCP, which is the name of the feature, remove. And that will actually remove the DHCP feature from the disk on your computer, on your Windows server. Once you do that, you can actually see in the diagram here below the printout where it says DHCP has been removed. Now, what about reinstalling? If I wanted to reinstall the feature that I deleted from disk, remember the feature is deleted from the disk, and the difference between Server 2012 and the previous operating systems was that the previous operating systems, you were not able to remove the features from disk. So whatever the size of your image was, that is what it had to remain. With 2012 R2, you can do it. But let's get back to the point here where you want to reinstall the feature. What you do? Simple PowerShell command. You can use install Windows feature, which is the PowerShell command. And you want to use it with the source option because you need to say, where will you get that feature from? Now you have some choices. You can get the feature from the image, the Windows image that you use to install the server software on your computer. And that image is called install.wim. And you can find it in the sources directory of your software, your server software. So for example, if your source was the install.wim file, you would be typing WIM, the colon, and whatever drive it is, might be your DVD drive that you're actually getting the files from, and it's going to be in the sources folder. The name of that image file is called install.wim. You see here we have image index. If you remember, when we were doing the clean install in a previous lesson, there were a number of Windows Server images. You had Server Standard, Server Core. You had Server Standard GUI. You also had Data Center GUI and Data Center Core. And those were 1, 2, 3, 4. Those were the index numbers for them. So if I was installing the last option, then I would have 4. It would be install.wim:4. So that's one method you can use with the source option. Another method is you can use the UNC part, the Universal Naming Convention, which means you can type / and your server name, and the network share, where you have your Windows Server source files stored. Or you can also use that WinSXS folder, but you need to make sure that you at least have a read permission on that folder. Now, that is the way that you install the feature. There's another way or another option for reinstalling the feature. And this option is simply to go to Manage on your server dashboard, click on Add Roles and Features, follow the template, and the screens you will get is before you begin, installation type, server selection, server roles, features, DHCP server. So you're actually going through the process of using the graphical user interface to add back the DHCP server role. But when you get to this page, which is a confirmation page, instead of clicking on Install, which you would normally do, you first have to select an alternate source path. And this alternate source path would be the path where you have those server files stored. So remember, if you're going to remove those binary files from the disk, you have to have them stored somewhere so that when you need, or if you need to reinstall them again, you can come here and click on Specify an Alternate Source Part, and you're presented with the browse window where you can actually browse to the share, the server share, or even to your DVD where you have those files stored. That is the end of this lesson. Thank you for listening.